Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself? Younger, more beautiful, more perfect.
The Substance is a 2024 horror, body horror, psycho thriller that stars Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and also Dennis Quaid. Okay. And this is directed by Coralie Fargeat. Okay, she's French. And this film won Best Screenplay at Cannes Festival, and it's for good reason. Okay. It starts off with an egg just in the middle of the screen. And obviously you see a syringe with some green stuff in it. They poke it in there, and then the egg starts multiplying.
Yeah, the yolk splits.
Yeah. And that's like, that
fantastic visual storytelling. Killer.
I love it. Because that's just something that says, remember this. This is gonna be important later on. This film follows a falling star, a falling Hollywood star, aerobics director.
I wouldn't say she's falling, more like fading. Just her time has come and it's gone.
Yeah.
Like she's done nothing wrong. She's just gotten older.
Yeah, she's gotten older. She's fading. The company that they want to replace her and replace her brand with something younger, newer, sexier. And
her name's Elizabeth Sparkle, and they're looking for the next Elizabeth Sparkle.
Yes.
And she's like, what? The next? I'm still here.
I'm still here. You know?
It's like a comically terrible day.
Right.
Just awful. First of all, she does her workout routine. It goes okay, but then the women's bathroom is closed, so she has to go to the men's bathroom. Then while she's in the men's bathroom, she hears the CEO talking very loudly on the phone. Oh, he wants the next Elizabeth Sparkle. And she is that just deflates her. She's like, what the And she looks at all her photos differently. Yeah. She's got this whole long hallway, which essentially is a great visual way to represent her career,
right?
From when she was a kid all the way till now. And she's realizing that this is it, and her career is over. There's literally no more room in the hallway for her to have a next chapter. And she's like, what the heck? Am I old news?
And then she sees a billboard being replaced and torn down and stuff. And she's just looking at it.
She's like, I'm not old news. I'm still here. Shit down. And she's like, what the heck? And then the car crashed. And she's fine.
And she's fine.
After the
she's, no broken bones or anything, but she's in the hospital. She's just depleted.
And everyone's like, damn, you got out of there without a scratch. How lucky. But she doesn't feel very lucky because she knows that this is the end of her career.
Right.
And it took me a long time to realize how quiet this movie is. I imagine the script for this thing, it's got to be like a page and a half because the movie works so hard to tell the story visually.
Yes.
It does everything that Silent Night was trying to do, but it does it so much more subtly to the point that you don't realize it. It's almost like WALL-E, where halfway through WALL-E, you're like, wait, has no one spoken? And it gives this film this surreal feeling, almost like a comic book or something, where everything is told visually. And because they're trying to tell it visually, your backgrounds are deadly simple.
Yes.
Like your backgrounds are white, or they're just like a sharp red or a yellow, and everything is like right in front of the camera. So there's no confusion. The visual like storytelling here. Yeah. The visual storytelling here, I think, is supreme. It is absolutely excellent.
And I think that's one of the keys to a great filmmaker, that if you can tell your story with your camera direction, you're amazing. You're amazing.
They run the risk of that looking pretentious like it did in Silent Night, but for here, I thought they killed it.
I don't think John Woo knows how to do that.
Silent Night felt like an experiment for him. Where this felt like an experienced hand doing something that she's been doing forever. And imagine my surprise when I found out this woman the director has only done one other film. She's done a lot of TV. She's only done one other film. Like, how exciting. And she has a whole future ahead of her.
When the camera is facing her and she's looking down, you see the doctor, but then you see this tremendously handsome man next to the doctor. And he just like staring, just looking.
And he's doing like a face. I thought he was distracting at first. I was like, oh, that's the wrong extra for this. Because he's standing back there and he's just like, I'm too sexy for you.
I'm too sexy.
And I'm like, who is this extra
right
back there posing? And then he's like, oh, you're a good candidate. And I was like, ooh.
So this nice, attractive doctor basically slips her something in her pocket without her knowing, but she notices it when she gets outside. A USB that says the substance on it, and it has a number on the back. But then there's a note that's in it that's very important to me in this film. It says, "It changed my life."
Right.
And it's coming from someone who's very attractive, right? Okay. The substance is a new underground drug. When you inject it into yourself, it takes a new version of yourself, basically hatches a new embryo of you and grows a new one out of yourself. And it's some very, very disgusting body horror, which happens within that. And she's having second thoughts about it. And she's like, I'm gonna throw it in the trash and I'm like, forget about it. But then she looks in the newspaper where they're saying they're looking for the next Elizabeth Sparkle for this upcoming thing, must be 18 to 30. And she's like,
right,
forget it, I'll call the number.
and then the shot is so good. It's from the bottom of the trash can, and she's reaching through all the garbage, and she pulls out this nasty note. It is so good. Yeah. She has to reach through the muck to get to it. That's just great.
She plugs it in, she watches the video, and the video basically told her everything. And it said, basically, you want a better, younger version of yourself, call this number. You basically have to live 7 days, okay, as your younger self, but then you have to switch immediately back to your old self. And it's 1 week per week, 1 peak per week. And it says, respect the balance. And and also key, it says, you are one. You are not separate. You are one.
And I think that's great, because we all know she will not respect that balance, because that is the movie, okay? In order for her to take the substance, she's got to go to the sketchy side of town, and she's got to open this door, and the door doesn't even open all the way, so she's got to like crawl on the ground in order to get to it. So she's got to dig to the garbage, crawl on the ground. She's got to do all this stuff in order to, so she wants this thing bad, okay? So she injects herself. It's almost like taking a drug or something. She's got to tie her arm off and inject it. She takes it. She's like, they ain't doing nothing. But then she falls on the floor, and like a child grows out of her back and tears out. It is a true body horror, disgusting.
I love it.
I was surprised to find that this movie was much more like The Fly and more like The Thing than I ever thought.
What
great movies. What great movies to compare it to.
So when this version of herself comes out, she's hot. She's hot. She's attractive. She's just everything. So, she has to follow the rules, which is after she gets out, she has to sew up her original body. And then she has to take like these samples of herself from her spine as like a pick-me-up every single day.
Yeah, I think it's called like an activator. Stabilizer. Right. That's it. But what's really great is she leaves the body just on the floor in the beginning, like some clothes he left on the floor. She just leaves it on the ground, steps over it. Both Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. They both spend huge portions of this movie like naked. Yeah, and that is. And they have some really like serious emotional scenes, and they're like completely naked. The level of vulnerability is, I just think that's great.
Yeah, this is a film that I could see Demi Moore being nominated for.
I could too. I was thinking that too. I was like, she trying to get an Oscar or something? Because she kind of killing this. Like, wow. And Margaret Qualley does too. She kills it as well.
Yeah. Not only they have to be naked, they both have to be in certain type of prosthetics. When the younger version comes out, she goes back to the company. She walks in, and the producer says, "Oh, everything is in the right place on this girl." Because the last girl, it wasn't.
They were like, "I wish she had boobs in the middle of her face," and that comes back in the worst possible way. Man. Like, holy crap. I also liked how the men never ask any questions. Nope. Any of the relevant questions, they never ask. They're just blinded by her beauty and by the sexuality. Yeah, what's your last name? They never ask. Like these kind of things, they never ask. She's like, "I'm Sue. Hired. Guys, come gather around. Isn't she hot?" And she's just like, and they're like, yeah. Like any relevant questions that would have ended this movie, they don't ask. The men don't give a damn. They don't care anything about her life. They don't care anything about nothing. She has to interject and be like, "Well, there's only one issue. I gotta go home and take care of my mom.
Doesn't matter.
And then
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, Dennis Quaid is like, great, I love family values. You're going to be a killer. And that's it, you know? Again, the thrust of the film is about loving yourself.
Yes.
And I think by using a woman, they showed how hard it is to love yourself when the world is constantly telling you that you're too old, you're too ugly, you're too fat, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too this, you're too that. This is the kind of movie that only a woman can make.
Yes.
And that's why it's important to have other voices other than just like white guys all the time. Only a woman could write this story. Only a woman could direct this. And it just hits so much harder.
You know, there's one scene where she's walking down the hallway in this New Year's Eve gown, and she's trying to get away, but then she's stopped by Harvey and a whole group of white dudes in suits. And it's all, and it's in the fishbowl look, the fishbowl lens, where they're all just like, look, and they're like, and then
it's called a fisheye lens.
Fisheye lens. And she's like, why don't you smile? A beautiful girl like you should always smile.
Always smile. That's right.
And I'm like,
but little do they know the body horror has already started, and she can't smile because all her freaking teeth are falling out. Yeah. And so she's just like, and what should have been suspicious, they're just like, oh, I love it. Great. Again, they never ask any relevant questions. Never. Can't wait to see that ass on the TV. Goodbye. It's like shit.
And let's talk about that point of that ass on that TV. The aerobics in this film for the younger version Sue is straight up damn near softcore porn. Yes. I mean, they are grinding, humping, slow music.
Yeah. What's really funny is when the body horror starts, it starts, or at least she thinks it starts on her butt. And you would think you'd be able to hide that, but the camera zoomed in on her ass, you know. They're like, we think we saw something.
Let's go back and run it back, and everyone's looking at her ass.
And it's just her butt, just like boom, 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 boom. You know, it's like she's like, oh my God. Again, like it's a woman making a commentary on like the male gaze, you know. She like cranks it up times 1,000.
Yes.
It's almost kind of cartoonish.
Yeah, very much.
The tone of the film.
Cartoonish.
The texture of the film is like completely absurd. And it's that absurdity that helps sell the movie, especially in the third act here.
Yeah. You see this Sue, you know, she is a 20-something-year-old girl.
Yeah, she's just a regular girl.
And she's like, I want to go hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
But it's on my 7th day, and I'm supposed to be getting back there to trade off with the older version of Elizabeth. Nah, I'm gonna go party. I'm gonna go stick the stabilizer in her to get more juice out of her, and just stealing from the other one. She's not respecting the balance.
Nope. She has serious impulse control because she's a little kid. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I liked that the young version of Elizabeth, who is named Sue, can't relate to the old version. And I like that so much. They're like, they can both see each other's issues, but they can't relate, right? It's like the old version thinks Sue is just partying too much. And after the party's over, the older version has got to clean up. She's cleaning up all kind of shit. She's like, what the hell? I got to clean up after this nasty ass orgy, you know, that the young version just had. But then when they switch, the young version has to clean up after the old version. The young version's like, ugh, all she does is sit around and eat and watch TV. Like, what the hell? You know? She's like, Elizabeth just sits around and eats all day. Wastes her 7 days. Just a waste, you know? And I thought that was great. She thinks that there's no point of having an older person around. All they do is waste time. That's just so good. So she starts to disrespect the balance.
Disrespecting the balance ends up being very, very bad for Elizabeth at this point in the film, where between the second...
Bad for Elizabeth, but good for me.
Yeah, that's...
Because the movie was great.
Exactly, right? The prosthetics start making Demi Moore look like the Wicked Witch of the West.
She's got like a hunchback, and she's like hunched over and nasty and gross. Her hair's all wiry and just look awful. Demi Moore in real life is in her 60s, and the character she played here, Elizabeth, just turned 50. So Demi Moore killing it, still talented, still beautiful, right? Crushing it. At the same time, Margaret Qualley, again, like I said, she spends the bulk of the film naked, but no one has a perfect body. No one. So she had to have prosthetic boobs. I thought it was interesting that even in the real world, they have to do some zhuzhing to get them to look like this.
Right. She calls the substance and she's like, she's not respecting the balance. And then the guy on the phone is like, there's no she. remember, it's just one.
It's just you.
And then she's like, he's like, do you want to terminate? And then she's like, no, I don't want to terminate. Then they hang up. The camera pans back from her to the note on the wall that says, it changed my life. Because she put it up on the wall to say it changed my life. And I'm like, that is such a great thing. It changed for the better for the younger version of that. Not for the older version, because later on she meets the older version of that kid.
He was like, is she sucking you dry yet?
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
By the end of the film, the third act starts. The Hunchback of Elizabeth came in a wake, and at the same time, she was trying to terminate the younger Sue.
She starts the termination process, but then she's like, is it worth living like this forever? And she's like, no.
I'd rather her just live out my life and I just die.
Yep.
Right. For somehow they actually woke up at the same time because they'd never been up together at the same time. And then some freaking superpower fighting starts happening in an apartment, and Sue gets the better half of Elizabeth and ends up basically killing Elizabeth right there.
And this is where the absurd nature of the film makes me question what was real and what wasn't.
Right.
Because you're right. They are like throwing each other around like superheroes in the apartment. But was that just Elizabeth's point of view? Because now she's super old and super weak. Young Sue just looks so powerful to her. And it just feels like she's got all the power on earth. And so she does this last tenth thing to, I'm just going to call it to divide Sue. So Sue tries to make a younger version of herself, and what comes out is a monster. Now, from the standpoint of the film, I get it metaphorically.
Yeah.
The substance, it's supposed to create a better version of you, right? And I think the better version was already there. It's Sue. So if you divide Sue in half, you get her true self, and that is a monster on the inside. Something ugly, disgusting. Yeah. As soon as you see her, you're revolted, you know, because that was the real Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Deep down, she really is a horrifying, screaming monster.
Right.
You know, full of like body parts and all that stuff. But it's also unclear if any of that happened. Because the film gets so absurd. First of all, Elizabeth pulls a chicken wing out of her side earlier in the film, only to double check, and there is no chicken wing there. That was just some shit going on in her head, right?
Like in a dream.
So it makes me think that did she just die in her apartment at the end of the film after she tried to terminate, but stopped halfway through? Did she just die there, and then everything else is just in her imagination, or did she really become some sort of a monster? Because the monster tears down a photo of herself, of her previous, of Elizabeth, and like sticks it to her face, like staples it to her face,
goes to the party,
and no one seems to notice. They're like, "Oh, thank God you're here," you know what I mean? And she's like, and shovels on stage, you know?
Yeah.
And when she gets on stage, the movie takes the most absurd turn. She just becomes like an exploding geyser of blood.
Yeah.
And it just sprays out all over the crowd, and everyone's just screaming, and everyone's rejecting her. They're like, monster! So nasty.
Yeah.
I mean, you can very clearly tell like that, you know, the crowd is supposed to be like, you know, society rejecting her when they see her true self, you know?
Yeah.
So again, I like how it works metaphorically, but did this actually happen? I don't know. And I'm not sure if it's important. It's just interesting to think about.
For real. Because in my mind, I'm like, okay, during this whole time, they're supposed to be having a New Year's Eve burlesque type of thing. So the models and stuff behind her don't have no tops on. But there's a child in the audience that is supposed to be a fan of Sue, and she's witnessing all this. Got the blood on her and everything.
A little girl.
Little girl. But I wanted to say that this monster looks incredible, though. I mean, body parts, teeth. You have Elizabeth's part. Her face is sticking out the back.
Yeah. All physical prosthetics.
All physical prosthetics. This monster reminded me of the Rat King. Okay? Totally. The Rat King from Last of Us Part 2.
And Elizabeth her face is stuck to the back of it, screaming, pulled into a scream. She's just like, it's just awful.
Yeah.
Some like pustule pops on that thing's face, and like a boob slips out and just falls to the floor. It is just so nasty, okay?
Yeah.
It takes what could have been something sexual earlier in the film, and just makes it so revolting. I love that.
She runs out there onto the street and her body collapses. Her body breaks in front of Elizabeth Sparkle's star, the star that's been just trampled over for years and years. And it's the same shot where that Elizabeth face crawls to the star, and it's like, I am a star, looking up at the stars and everything and glitter and everything. Right. And then it seeps into the cracks, and then a damn
it just dissolves.
Zamboni comes by and cleans it up.
Yeah, street cleaner comes by.
Yeah, my bad, Zamboni.
Yeah. Cleans it up, and it's like she was never there. And again, the visual storytelling is good because the movie, like you said, starts with them making the star. They're paving it and adding the letters, and there's a big ceremony, and they're like, yeah, and they show people saying, oh, that's Elizabeth. Elizabeth Sparkle Star, taking pictures, leaning on it, and then as time goes by, people stop doing that. Someone drops a sandwich on top of it and smears all kind of shit all over it. There's a nasty crack in the middle of it. No one comes to repair it. She is just a forgotten star. And then at the end, like you said, her face, I guess, dissolves into the cracks of this nasty star, only for it to be swept up. Yeah. Forgotten. All the drama she went through, all the horror she went through,
don't matter.
No one cares. No one gives a fuck. Even after all of that. And that is just brutal. If she had just learned to love herself, she would still be a beautiful woman living in a beautiful apartment in Hollywood. Instead, she's just a goo monster. I know I sound stuffy and arrogant when I say this, but these are the kind of movies, especially when you compare it to something like Venom, it shows how Venom's barely a movie. You know what I mean? It's just like images and things you recognize, but there's like not really a plot. No one really gives a damn. The movie starts, you feel one way, the movie ends, you go, nah, you leave. But this movie, you go through such a roller coaster. I was sad when this movie ended. I was like, oh, that's it? Even though it's a long movie. I am tempted to say this is my favorite movie of the year that I've watched so far. Like I had a really great time watching this, and had a great time afterwards, just thinking about it. I was going down the rabbit hole trying to figure out more little Easter eggs and things like that, visual storytelling that I might have missed. Like, for example, when she's in the bathroom at her office, it's red, just like the bathroom in The Shining. It looks almost identical. Right. So there's lots of great references to awesome and much bigger films like The Shining, like The Fly. Obviously, this whole thing feels like a reference to The Thing. I think that's just so much fun.
And it's crazy that it's films that make you uneasy, right? Because you know that it's going to be some type of crazy story where it's not going to work out for the characters in the film. That is fun.
I think it really feels uneasy because a lot of Marvel movies and stuff like that work hard to make sure you never feel uneasy. To make sure you never doubt whether or not the main character is going to get out of this just fine. They are just like, it's okay, everything's fine, calm down, relax. And this movie is like, fuck you, everything's fucked up, goodbye, leave the theater. And you're like, sure, and it just feels like such a gut punch. By the way, as I said, this director, she's not like she's got some history of greatness here, right? She is a good director, obviously, but she doesn't have a long filmography. This is like a relatively untested director working with essentially an old actress. I hate to say that, but Demi Moore really is essentially Elizabeth Sparkle, where her time has just passed. And Hollywood is so cruel to women who are older than like 19. And I am just really happy that this role was even written at all. And I think we're lucky that someone like Demi Moore is just sitting there on the back burner in literally nothing for so long when she could clearly do stuff like this. No man on earth could make this film. And that is just fun, y'all. That is fun. I demand more. Demand less of boring shit like Venom. We've had that 100 times. Demand more weird stuff. Demand more challenging things that make you feel gross and nasty.
Question things.
Make you hurt, make you laugh, make you cry.
Make you think.
To me, yes. To me, that's a real movie. And I am happy that we are still making stuff like that.
Yes.
And I thought this movie was quite the revelation.
I thought this movie was quite the revelation as well. But that's what we thought about this film. More importantly, what did you think about this film? get in the comments and let us know what you thought about the substance.
People are gonna love that.
Thank you so much for clicking on this video. We are like 75 subscribers away from 1,000 subscribers. You can help us get there by hitting the subscribe button right at the bottom, all right? Help us get there. And if you did like this review for this film, please hit the thumbs up. It really does help us out. Or you can hit the thumbs down. Whichever you choose, it is your opinion. But just remember one thing, it is mostly wrong. We'll see you in another movie review.
Try not to take any substances from someone you don't know where they came from.
Exactly. Some blue-eyed pretty boy.
Or do it. Do it anyway and record it so we can make a video out of it, okay? Do it. Don't be safe. Be reckless. Take drugs, kids.
Oh, wow. No.